Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. A couple of weeks ago, we did the story of Jo Farrell, the new Chief Constable of Police Scotland, and her thievery from the people of Scotland by basically using a policeman to drive her home. It was about a 300-mile round trip. It took about 6 hours. It was basically an entire shift for a police officer who should have been on active duty during a storm when people's lives were at risk. Of course, they then had to drive home alone. Was there any kind of risk assessment done on that? I suspect not. She's never repaid the money for the fuel or the officer's time. And so all this was done at public expense for her own personal convenience. And therefore, she's stolen from the public. She's a thief. And she's a liar because she tried to cover it up. But it isn't just her. It's come to light that the SNP government knew about it and sat on the news for weeks. Presumably, of course, so that they can own her, just as they owned Ian Livingstone, the previous one. They've got their own little pet chief constable in their pocket. She is now simply an arm of the SNP doing their bidding. Let's have a look at the story and see what more corruption will be coming down the line from the new Chief Constable. Here goes. So, secretive SNP government sat on news about the new Chief Constable's police taxi home to England for 3 weeks. That is sitting there going, Joe, we need you to do this. I can't do that. And then just sort of tapping the folder on the desk, going tappy, tappy, tappy. What have we got here? Maybe you should. And then she was off and doing things. And of course, once she does it once, you're in. If she controlled one thing once and did it as a favour, she's been bought. And that's it forever. She's done. She is now owned by the SNP. She's not an independent police officer. She's now a direct employee of the SNP. She will do their bidding, whatever it will be. She'll make sure that certain things aren't investigated, or she'll make sure if it has to be investigated, that it'll be badly investigated so the case is thrown out. Things like that. She is no longer fit for the job. And that's what happens when you employ a thief and a liar as a chief constable. So, Scottish Government's Justice Secretary Angela Constance confirmed to Scottish Tory Justice spokesman Russell Findlay that officials found out about Jo Farrell's thievery police ride home to England 3 weeks before it was published in the press. Why so shady? Because obviously they needed to ensure that she was well and truly bought and paid for before they released the information. There's no other explanation, is there? They need to own everything. This is why they've got Dorothy Bain sitting in the cabinet. So they own justice, they own the police. They're home and dry, aren't they? They can do anything now, and will. The Secretary of SNP government has been blasted after it was revealed that ministers knew about the scandal surrounding the Chief Constable stealing a lift home by an on-duty cop 3 weeks before it became public. Jo Farrell was forced to apologise, and yet strangely not made to repay the money after she was driven back to England by a patrol car in October. This, of course, during the storm. People's lives were in danger, but it was okay because, Jo Farrell managed to get home nice and snug and safe. This was just months into her reign. It was actually just about 6 weeks into her reign as Scotland's top cop, and was labelled a misuse of police resources by critics. She's on £250,000 a year. You'd think she could stay in a hotel overnight. The role was vacated by Ian Livingstone in August. Another one previously owned by the SNP. He was probably glad to resign, retire and disappear so that he no longer had to put up with the stigma of being in the pocket of Nicola Sturgeon. Miss Farrell joined from the Durham force. Not a big move for her, a couple of miles up the road, but apparently too far to go home of an evening. She was slated after getting an on-duty traffic cop to take her and a male colleague home. He's also from her former Durham force. It's 120 miles from Edinburgh to the north of from Edinburgh to the north of Edinburgh to the north of England. Terrible writing on this paper, but anyway, this was during Storm Babette when cross-border train services were cancelled due to bad weather. However, hotels, I've heard tell, were open. She could have stayed there, but didn't. Chose not to. Bad choice. Even worse when you consider that she's stolen all those resources from the taxpayer. Now the Scottish Sun reports that the Scottish Government actually found out about this October the 20th incident on November the 1st but kept it under wraps until it was reported by various papers on November the 23rd. It sparked an outcry of anger and forced Miss Farrell to give a public apology, but strangely she did not pull out her chequebook and repay the money of the fuel and the money for the time of the policeman's time on duty. Justice Secretary Angela Constance, who we see there wearing her purple hair because she's part of the Purple Hair Brigade, to show you exactly what kind of person she is, answered a number of parliamentary questions about the scandal, but also stonewalled attempts, how very apt, stonewalling, attempts to publish correspondence between her and the Chief Constable about the taxi home, trying to cover it up, trying to be extremely shady, trying to hide the details. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that Angela Constance and the SNP would be trying to hide things that they're embarrassed about from the public? The thievery, the misuse of funds, the lies and the deceit. They don't want that getting out now, do they? She confirmed that they weren't notified about this matter by the Scottish Police Authority on the 1st of November 2023. And she added, this was for information only, as the governance and scrutiny of Police Scotland is for the authority and not for ministers. Yes, but it's also public taxpayer-funded money. They need to know when their Chief Constable is a lying thief. And why is she still in her position? She's admitted to lying and thieving. She's even apologised for thieving, but still hasn't lost her job and still hasn't paid the money back. Scottish Tory Justice spokesman Russell Findlay also asked about the Durham cop who reportedly accompanied Miss Farrell on the trip. He was told it is good practice for police organisations to share their knowledge and experience. We wonder what else they were sharing. Police Scotland, well, yes, actually, there's an even better reason they could have got a hotel. Wouldn't have had anything when she shows her husband the hotel bill. What? Oh, it was rain. I had to get a hotel room. Plonk, plonk, plunge. Anyway, the SNP minister refused to answer other questions from the Conservative MSP, including whether she would provide details of any discussions that she has had with Police Scotland, including the Chief Constable, about the journey. Mr. Findlay hit out at Miss Constance for keeping the entire scandal a secret for so long. Well, they don't want the people to know that they now own Scotland's top cop. They don't want them to know that Jo Farrell is in their pocket and will do exactly what she's told now. No longer an independent chief police officer. Simply a pawn in the SNP's big game, isn't it? It smacks of secrecy, he says, and suggests that they hope the Scottish public and police officers would never find out. Frontline officers deserve to know the full circumstances of what happened, yet the SNP Justice Secretary continues to stonewall me and everyone else with non-answers to a series of important questions. Miss Farrell apologised for her actions and admitted to an error of judgment for taking the trip, and it was claimed that the traffic cop that escorted her home was just one of two on shift in the whole of the east of Scotland that night. How bad is that? You've taken away 50% of the officers just so one lazy, thieving, lying cow can get home rather than spending a night in a hotel with her colleague. We'll leave that one there. It is bad. It's not surprising. You know, it's not surprising that she's a lying, two-faced cow and all. But that's both of them. But there you go. Well done. I've got to say, well done, Angela. You've played a blinder. You own another top cop. Well done to you. Perhaps somebody should fire this cop, because we don't really want liars and thieves, especially one. Her first day in the job when she comes in and says, Police Scotland is fundamentally racist. That's the least of Police Scotland's problems. Now they've got a liar and a thief controlling them. Never mind. We'll come up and we'll round off. Nobody minds if you get a lift home. If you say we're in an Edinburgh police station, you're the Chief Constable, you're in an Edinburgh police station, and you lived in, say, Edinburgh. And you just go, oh, my car's not there, it's a bit wet. I tell you what, is anyone going out on patrol over that side of the town? Oh, yeah, I'm going out there in 10 minutes. Okay, I'll come with you, you can drop me off. Nobody would have cared. Nobody would mind. It wouldn't have been an issue. But the very fact she took what was effectively half the patrol of that side of town away for 6 hours at great expense, removing a frontline officer and then abandoning him to drive 100-odd mile back alone in a storm, endangering his life should anything have happened. then lying about it, then covering it up, and then conniving with the Scottish Government to make sure it stayed covered up, not offering to repay the debt, so you're actually now a thief, you've stolen those resources, you've endangered people's lives. There's no option. Jo Farrell must resign. And the thing is, that would cause another major headache for the SNP, because then you're going to get a new Chief Constable come in, someone who they don't own yet. And they'll have to go to all the trouble of trying to get something on the new one so that they can own him or her as quickly as they can, because they need to own the Chief Constable. Can't possibly have an independent one. That wouldn't suit them at all. And it goes to show how corrupt this whole country is. The Justice Secretary, the head of Justice, and the Chief Police Officer, all in cahoots to make sure that the SNP can get away, quite literally, with murder. I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please carry on. Do please hit the subscribe button. Definitely hit the like button. And I will speak to you later. Bye.